You were a Persuaders fan, yeah?
I am.
You are, so am I. It was sad news about Tony. He'd had a good innings and played good life, didn't he? But
good innings, an interesting life.
Buried with the gloves, you know.
Yeah. What's that?
He was buried with his driving gloves.
Was that right?
His wife Jill said that was in memory of Danny Wilde. He loved that part.
Brilliant.
So, and of course you did a great job with the...
I did.
Every time I saw those mitts, I thought, yes.
No, it was true. I actually, going back to Life on Mars, I think, having words. I insisted on having the gloves with the holes in.
But it was a great tribute to Tony and Danny Wilde, wasn't it?
Yeah, completely. But I think in many respects, looking at when we did Life on Mars and the comparison to something like the Persuaders, just in terms of the sort of, I was thinking about last night, the buddy element, which is about these two characters in the same way that you had two characters in the Persuaders, very different, approaching things from the same angle, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, we had that similarity in Life on Mars, two very different characters, Sam Tyler and Gene Hunt, but having a common purpose. You
did. Did you get that interview I gave you? Did you ever listen to that?
I did, actually, yeah.
It's on YouTube. You were right. Tony, in that, he said he challenged the whole script and the ad-libbing and the improvisation. Did you think it was a good, good interaction?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, when you've got chemistry like that, it's great. Something like Teddy Curtis, it can be a bit of a live wire, judging by some of the production people said about it. It's pretty unpredictable. It keeps people on their toes. It's the way he is, and the way he was, and I just think when you've got that chemistry, you'll make it work. And of course,
Bob Baker said that they used to have to do about 4 boom mics, and it come in different directions, different dialogue. That kind of thing probably never happens nowadays.
No, you wouldn't get away with it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Just mainly because of time. You don't have the time to sort of, even if you screw up and somebody starts laughing, there's always a thunderous face on the floor. You're just thinking, this is costing me money here. I've got another four scenes to shoot this afternoon. You just don't have that luxury of rehearsal in many respects,
Yeah.
I mean, you get on the floor, you block it through, and you start shooting as soon as you can, because you've got kind of. I mean, when we started Life on Mars, we were shooting probably 5 pages max a day, and even that we thought, my God, that's a lot. By the time we were finishing on Ashes, 4 or 5 years later, the third series, we were shooting sometimes 10 pages a day.
Wow. I suppose that makes it a little bit more stressful and less pleasurable, but.
Well, you just don't have time to think about it, really. Some respects, that's not a bad thing. In other respects, it's quite frustrating because sometimes you haven't done a scene justice because you just haven't had the time.
Were you allowed ad-libbing to any degree in those characters? In Ashes to Ashes and Life on Mars?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, generally speaking, it wasn't so much that you just change lines here and there, just sort of tweak them. But I had lived a couple of them. I remember there was one in the last series where one of the villains is running away and Keely gets out of the quattro on the other side and she points a gun at him. It's like, is she going to fire? Is she going to shoot him? And she doesn't, and I just say, are you going to shoot him? No, all right, get in the car, go run him over instead. It was just an ad-lib, And I think, you've got to be careful with writers as well. You start changing their scripts around, they can get a little bit precious.
Brian Clements, I met him a couple of times, and he said that when he was doing the professionals, obviously expensive scenes where they're blowing things up and shooting that, but then you get the interaction between the two actors in the car and the bit of little gestures, and that's when you know you've made it, because that's cheap, and you see the relationship on the screen, and everyone enjoys that aspect.
Absolutely.
It's hard to get there, I guess.
It is, but, I think also if writers, from a writer's point of view, if they're writing for something like the Persuaders, I'd imagine, they know it's Tony Curtis, they know it's Roger Moore, they've got, Lord Brett Sinclair and Danny Wilde. I mean, that informs you immediately. You've got these actors playing those parts. So, in that respect, you can write for people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what happened with me with playing Gene Hunt. To begin with, he was just this character, this 70s cop. And then by the second series, certainly towards the end of the first, that I think actually the writers felt much more comfortable writing something like Gene than they did for Sam.
Yeah, obviously it was a little bit like Reagan to me, but you know, the punchy lines were what made the programme, really. It hung on those, didn't it, in a way?
Well, he's the 70s cop.
Yeah.
Ultimately, and he's got a lot of references to draw.
When did you first see the Persuaders? What age were you approximately?
I would have been when was it out?
71, but you say I'm older than you. I was 13. I'm 52, and I find a lot of people around 13 because I don't know why they liked it. Just 'cause it had fast cars, fast women, and adventure and lots of money. Who knows? But
yeah. I remember vividly. I've just been away on holiday. I think it was shown in September or something like that. 71 or 72. And it was a Friday night it was on originally. In the very first episode, just immediately being hooked on it. Glamorous and just remembering that the split screen thing as well, which was quite innovative for that time, you know, the cars going along the Côte d'Azur. I mean, what also fascinating about a series like The Persuaders is effectively the third lead was the cars. You know, you've got Tony Curtis, Roger Moore, and the cars. And shows like that sort of tended to feature things like cars were sort of the start in many respects. You know, you had things like the Batmobile, you had the Starsky Hutch car, you know. And we sort of brought that back a little bit with Mars by bringing the Cortina and then with Ashes with the crotch fan mail, basically.
Did it?
Yeah.
You should have brought the crotchers. You know, they might become.
Oh, I know.
Well, it's true, isn't it? You never know.
I actually up in the end of bastard.
Did they?
Yeah.
I mean, the Aston Martin, you know, I tried to get you in at the Pinewood, but I don't think you could make it, but for Bob Baker's Day, but the Aston was there and it's in great nick. Spent a fortune on it, but it's in great nick. The Quattro did become part of it, you're right, the fire of the Quattro, so...
yeah, totally.
Yeah. Did you have any problem introducing the gloves into the character, or did you just let you do that?
No, it was immediate. It was when I remember again going for costume fitting, and it was the costume, I did it with the costume girl, Emma, and she just had a load of different coats and the stuff laid out, and I just saw the camel coat and the shoes, and that was a character. And then I said, oh, gloves, driving gloves, got to have gloves. We went for a set of gloves, and came up the ones with the holes in. I said, that's they're the babies.
Perfect. Are they on eBay yet?
I've got a pair somewhere. We've got through a few pairs, I think. And it was sort of a driving, and it was one of those things that you identify the character. So when we went on to do Ashes again, you know, we changed the jeans look a little bit, made it a bit more 80s. We still keep the gloves, still have the same gloves.
How did you feel that character? Because it's such a sort of powerful, funny character, wasn't it? Were you easy delivering those lines? Yeah, no problem, eh? Yeah.
Well, when you've been playing for 5 years, it was sort of, it becomes a bit like, you know, put on the gloves, so to speak.
Put on the character, yeah.
It's almost that you can get a bit lazy with it, because you know, so you play it and you know what to do. But start challenging yourself hard.
Did you have any particular Persuaders episode that you liked?
That I particularly liked. I liked all of them, really. I mean, I liked, there was a good one with Ian Hendry. Remember that one? That the TV studio about it, and he was good about it, Ian Hendry. I think it was one that Roger directed, actually.
It was, yes, it was, you're right, yeah. I like the Gold Napoleon. Did you see the stunt that Tony did when he climbed the building?
Yeah, that was a pilot, isn't it?
Yeah, you know the story behind that one?
I do.
Yeah.
Apparently he didn't tell anybody.
Roy Ward Baker did his note, didn't they?
Yeah, and then it was his director, Roy Ward Baker.
Roy Ward Baker, yeah.
Suddenly said, get the cameras turning over quickly now.
Yeah, I know, he said, you bastard. You're setting me up because he thought he'd catch him when the camera's not rolling. But he did quite a few stunts, you could tell that, couldn't you?
I know, you could see that.
Yeah, to be fair, Roger did a fantastic job of dealing with him. Everybody said that. He's into reaction, he kept him on the storyline, and they made a great pair, didn't they? I thought it was...
Absolutely, the chemistry was fantastic, you know, you could see it there, like, you know, they obviously got on quite a laugh. And it must have been a great fun show to work on. It's great, though.
So you got really hooked when you was 8 years old, and watched
it. It used to be on a Sunday afternoon when they repeated it. I remember it was like you watched a big match, followed by the Persuaders, and then the Golden Shovel. We level up before we had to go back to school. probably the most expensive TV series of its time, you know. Now it would be fairly big budget, you know. What was it, £1 million an episode?
Yes, it was, yeah. And I think they got a 25% cut, so it was pretty good for them, wasn't it, at the time?
Absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't get paid that now. You wouldn't get a series. I mean, you know, £1 million, and they'd be pushing to get that now.
Mm. Did you have any particular favourite out of the two characters?
I like both of them, really. I probably identified more with Tony Curtis' character because he was from, you know, humble beginnings. And me and my mate Paul Patterson, he used to, I used to hear Paul Lord Bertram Clark, he went to private school and I went to comprehensive studies. But, you know, they're both great characters.
Yeah. Tony once said that also little things he did, if you get a small scene, say 10 seconds where nothing particular is happening, he'd do something like look at a girl or, you know, something to make the scene interesting. And, you know, when you notice that, it's a good tip, isn't it, for actors? Because in a way, if you can do that, it gives the character all these different facets and dimensions.
Sometimes it's not so good because, you know, you sort of less is more, especially with the camera, because the camera never lies, so to speak. So if you do start, you've got to be very experienced and very good to do it. Curtis was. He was very spontaneous. He was a great actor. He was a very underrated actor in many respects. You know, I mean, he was a wonderful comedy actor. Very, you know, you look at something like Your Heart. You compare that to something like Boston Strangler. You know, he was versatile.
He was. But once again, I think because he challenged I mean, he felt a little bit of fish out of water, I think, with it being an English crew that Roger knew, and he felt, I would think, a little bit insecure at the beginning from what he said, and so that made him maybe abrasive, and I think that by that it caused that interreaction which you see to some degree on the screen, and it kind of made that series, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, a bit like, you know, your character had that element to it as well, and that's why you're so popular as well, I guess, you know.
Yeah.
You've got that ability to do that, which.
Very kind of say that.
Well, no, but it's true, isn't it? That's why you know, Ashes to Ashes was such an enormous hit because of the way that you portrayed the character. I mean, it's made you very prominent, hasn't it? And I've seen your website; it looks very nice.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're revamping Roger's website, and we're going to put some box canvases on of Persuaders. We've got some on now, and if you'd like one, send it. I'll send one down there in 3 sizes. There's a great black one, which looks beautiful with them in the background. And I mean, maybe you might consider sending me a picture of you holding the canvas if you didn't mind.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. And yeah, it's been lovely. And thank you. And
so I look forward to having a look at the site.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Philip.
And best to Rog.
If it's happening, I'll certainly let you know through your PA.
I don't know who he is. Finish the box set like on that.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Philip.
Take care.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Alan?
Hello, Tony.
There we are.
Thank you ever so much for this.
It's a privilege.
The one programme that began this was when I was 13 years old in 1971, when I watched The Persuaders, and you were my favourite character of the two as Danny Wilde. I used to avidly watch it on a Friday in the UK.
I'm happy to hear that. I love the series very much.
Yeah.
I love the character of Danny. Danny was me.
Yeah.
And I knew that Roger needed that kind of a irascible, impetuous kind of person to work against. If I try to be a gentleman like he is, it would have been kind of one wouldn't deserve the other. So I knew right away that Roger couldn't be irascible like I am. He couldn't be as charming as I am. He couldn't do any of the stuff I did, so therefore I decided I would do it.
So you actually thought of the way the character would be rubbed against Rod's smoothness, and that was your thinking that brought that character out in Danny Wilde.
Right, and that's what made that series work so nice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.